All right, Algebra 2. So I got this Edpuzzle video for you to go over the notes that are on page 15, the ones you glued in before you left on Friday. Okay, so what we're looking at is complex numbers. So this is kind of the next step when it comes to the powers of I. Remember, powers of I, we could actually title this imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers. And again, the reason it's even called an imaginary number is because the very root of this is square root of -1. And remember, traditionally when we say we have a negative radicand, we can't take the square root of it. So then we have to have a different method of solving that. Okay, so going over to complex numbers. All right, so first we're gonna do this one step at a time. So first let's open this one. And the goal of this is again to simplify. Now when we're dealing with two complex numbers, we have two parts. Okay, the first part we call that the A. The A we call the real number. Okay, so that's the real, like real numbers. Okay, and this, the second part, we call the imaginary number. And as you can see, it's called imaginary because it has the I. So for all these answers, for all complex numbers, you always have two parts. That's why they're complex, because there are two parts. They're binomial, and they include imaginary numbers as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is first multiply. Now, when we multiply here, all I'm doing is distributing this I into here. Okay, so let's write this out. So it's 3i squared times I to the 1. Okay, so all that is 3i to the 3, or 3i cubed. Now if you go back, when we talked about right before you guys left class, we already figured out that I cubed is actually equal to -I. So I can simply just say that this is 3 times -I, oops, sorry you guys can't see that, which is equal to -3i squared. Or sorry, not squared, just -3i. Okay, and again, just to kind of review, we figured out that I cubed is equal to -I because I squared is -1. So we replace that here, and all we're doing is multiplying I. That gives us -I. Okay? It's just something that's true. So if anything, you can just remember this cycle here, that if you have I, it's square root of -1. If you have I squared, it's -1. If you have I cubed, it's going to be -I. And if you have I to the 4th, it's going to be 1. And then it just goes in this cycle all around and around. So I to the 5th will be this, then I to the 6th, then I to the 7th, then I to the 8th, I to the 9th, I to the 10th, okay, and so on. All right, so going back here. Now we're just going to multiply the coefficients first. So -6 times 2 minus 12. And then we've got I squared times I squared. Well, that becomes I to the 4th. And remember that I to the 4th is 1. So this is now -12 times 1, minus 12. Okay? So that's multiplying. All right? So now, let's go down to adding and subtracting. Okay, so now all we're doing is treating these like combining like different terms, or we're treating them like terms when we, combine like terms. So the like terms that we have here are 4 and -2, and the other like terms are 2i and -5i. Okay, so I have 4 minus 2, that's just 2. And if you remember, what I said that the real number is a, the b is the imaginary number. Real number you always put first. Whatever number that has I always goes second. Okay, so when I simplify this, I do the real number first, 2, and then I've got plus 2 minus 5, so it's going to be minus 3i. And you notice I put the imaginary number second. Okay, so going on over here. Now if you notice, I've got a negative in the middle, so that's a -1. I need to distribute that. So I can just take away these parentheses, and this becomes plus 2 and plus 5i. And now again, just combine like terms. 6, and then 2 plus 5 is now 7i. Okay? And then here, same thing. That's just plus, so I can just take that away. Or take away the parentheses is what I mean. And then 5 plus 3 is 8, minus I. And remember, again, I is the second number, the imaginary number. Here, we've got a minus between, so we just got to distribute that first. So, minus 3 plus I. Now 5 minus 3 is 2 plus I. There's your solution. Okay? So now, let's move over here. Now, let's say we have to distribute a number. Okay, we'll just simply distribute it. Minus 20, minus 5 times minus 6, plus 30, I, and that's it. Done. Same thing here. 3i, now we're distributing imaginary number this time, so we got to make sure we do this in the right order. So first 3i times 4 is 12i, and then 3 times 2 is, or 3 times minus 2 is negative 6. Now it's I times I, which is I squared. Now let's go back to our chart. What's I squared equal to? I squared is negative 1. Okay, so that means that I can simplify this to 6 times minus 1, because that's what I squared is. So now this becomes 12i plus 6. But remember, the real number has to be rearranged first. So 6 goes first, then 12i. And then there is our solution, or our simplified expression. Okay. Now, what if we have two binomials that are being multiplied? Well, you can use two different methods. You can FOIL. You can do the first, then the outside, then the inside, then the last, or use the box. If some of you guys have learned this before. Box, simply you take the first binomial, goes on the side, so 3, and then minus 2i, and then the second binomial goes on top. And actually, you can switch it. It doesn't matter which way you put it. And just multiply like a multiplication table. So 3 times 4, 12. Negative 2 times 4, or negative 2i times 4 is minus 8i. Then 3 times 5i, 15i. And then negative 2 times 10 is 10, minus 10. But then it's I times I, which is I squared. And remember, this simplifies to negative 10 times minus 1. Because remember, I squared is minus 1. So then that's actually going to be 10. Okay? So now, what I can do here with the box is I can combine the like terms right now, because these are the terms. So what I'm going to do is combine them right now. So the 12 and 10, those are like terms. And remember, real numbers go first. So 12 plus 10 is 22. And then I have negative 8 and 15. So negative 8 plus 15, that's going to be plus 7i. Okay? So now what I want you guys to do is you're going to go back to the calendar. So let's bring that up over here. Okay, and go to the Excel sheet, and I'll copy that here for you guys for today. Right there. Ignore this, the pick 12 from each section, because we're doing something different. And go to the Excel sheet, and it's highlighted in orange. And that's what you guys are going to work on. So this is the powers of I. And then we also have add and subtract complex numbers and multiply complex numbers. So I'm going to end the video here. If you want another video to watch me do a couple examples from each, I also posted this in as a puzzle. That's the next video. All right.